Who would have thought that the so-called legatees of Sardar Patel in Gujarat would resort to vandalizing public property? Who would have thought that in the land of the Mahatma, we would once again see policemen turning from law enforcers to law breakers by targeting private property, particularly cars? These were the shameful images that we saw coming out of Gujarat yesterday. Images that do little credit to the state. At the heart of it is the so-called demand for reservations for the Patels or Patidars, led by a 23-year-old Hardik Patel. It's a very interesting reservation agitation that we have in Gujarat, because the Patels for the longest time have been the most politically dominant, socially influential and economically prosperous community in Gujarat. So when the Patels start asking for reservations, you've got to start asking, why is this happening? And maybe you've got to look back in history. Because remember, in the 1980s, when the Congress formed a Kshatriya, Harijan, Adivasi, Muslim alliance, the Patels resorted to an anti-reservation agitation to bring down the Congress government of Madhav Singh Solanki at the time. At that time, they were anti-reservation. Now the Patels, 30 years later, are asking for reservation. It may partly have to do with the fact that younger Patels today are finding that the business opportunities or the entrepreneurial opportunities they were looking for are slowly disappearing. Or that in the state recruitment drive which was launched last year, they have lost out to the OBCs. Interestingly, Narendra Modi became Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2001. He was an OBC leader at the time, or seen as someone who was going to break the monopoly that the Patels had over power. Today, Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister of the country, and we have a Patel, Anandiben, who's the Chief Minister of Gujarat. The anger of the younger Patels needs to be understood. It needs to be contained. This issue needs to be handled with care and sensitivity. The last thing the Gujarat government should be doing is to make Hardik Patel into some kind of a heroic figure. We've also seen politicians across this country at times fishing in troubled waters when it comes to reservations. The Congress must stay out. Other leaders in other parts of the country who have tried to make statements on what's happening in Gujarat should stay out. The Gujarat government, for its part, needs to also recognize that it is dealing with a serious political challenge, and it needs to handle it with care, not with a danda, as we saw yesterday. That is never going to solve issues like reservations. As I said, too many innocents have lost their lives over the years in reservation agitations. Just one final point. When Baba Sahib Ambedkar was framing the constitution, he made it clear that reservations was meant to socially and economically empower the poorest of the poor, Dalits and backward castes primarily. And it was meant for a finite period, around 10 years. 60 years later, all that we see in this country, more and more communities, more and more castes are demanding the crutch of reservations. That's it on this video blog. Thanks very much for listening, and do send in your feedback to rajdeepsardesai.net.